how can this be happening at such an elite level? We are so far away from the problem, but also we are represented by the problem.
Last thing on Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
So they have a new president, Catherine Henderson, was announced was it this week? It's like pretty big, pretty recent news, correct?
Last week, but
maybe last week, something like that. Oh no, the big news was the Nike aspect of it. That was the recent one.
Week, yeah.
So for those that don't know, Hockey Canada had some scandals, to put it gently.
Story from April of this year. We learned actually just recently, but in April of this year, a woman accused 8 members of our World Junior Hockey team back in 2018 of sexual assault based on an incident in London, Ontario. That civil case was settled by Hockey Canada in 3 weeks. Yesterday in the Globe and Mail, we were shown a window into how Hockey Canada settles this type of accusation. And the report said that they collect $23.80 from roughly 600,000 players and their membership fees across the country to set up a fund to handle claims of sexual assault and abuse. The fund in recent years had $15 million in it. So they are taking portions of fees from 6, 7, 8-year-old kids, putting it aside for this reason.
And then they had kind of like an executive overhaul, so like new board of directors.
Well, let me read the statement from Hockey Canada. Effective immediately, it announced the departure of Chief Executive Officer Scott Smith. The entire board has also agreed to step down to make room for a new slate of directors.
Now they have a new CEO. She was, for the last 7 years, the CEO of Curling Canada.
Because clearly everybody in the room loves the game of hockey.
Did you notice, and obviously you don't have to mention anything or I can cut things out if you're not comfortable talking about it, but like when you started, because you would have been there during the time, even though it wasn't your team, it was the men's team, but you would have been there during the time. Did you notice there was like a culture of covering things up a little bit, or did you feel like... Did you get any vibe of like a culture problem just in general?
I never got that vibe from people higher up.
Okay.
I mean, I've always growing up and being in the same sport as, men's hockey, I guess, to put it that way. I've always known there was like a culture like that. And like being in high school, I'm more exposed to that kind of stuff. But I definitely knew the culture was there. To connect that with Hockey Canada, I never thought of doing.
Yeah. Same, in fairness.
So I don't know. You kind of just put national sports on a pedestal in my perspective, and I think a lot of other people's perspective. And I think that's why it was such a big shock that how can this be happening at such an elite level? So I think I never thought of Hockey Canada as a organization to be doing that kind of stuff, but I don't think anyone was expecting that kind of stuff. But also, it has nothing to do with the women's side of things, obviously. But
amen.
We do get pulled into the negative limelight, I guess.
So what's happened now, so initially when the allegations, well, not even allegations, when the evidence of what they were doing came out, a bunch of sponsors pulled out, right?
Canadian Tire has permanently ended its sponsorship, saying Hockey Canada continues to resist meaningful change. This, along with a constantly growing list of departing sponsors. That includes TELUS, Tim Hortons, Esso, Scotiabank, Chevrolet, Pepsi, Sobeys, Swiss Chalet, The Keg, and Skip the Dishes.
In a statement, Nike said it's no longer a sponsor of Hockey Canada.
So then a couple weeks ago, Bauer came back. Nike yesterday or 2 days ago? Yesterday?
Very recent, yeah.
They made an announcement that they were like, we're not sponsoring Hockey Canada again. Like, we're permanently cutting ties. The thing is, it doesn't mean with the players necessarily, because like from my understanding through the IIHF agreement, you guys would still be sponsored like individually, but just not Hockey Canada, the organization. As a player, were you surprised that Nike did that?
I was not surprised. I'm not sure there's any reason for them to come back. Like, there wasn't, I mean, they've gotten rid of a lot of leadership people and people, like, on the board, but, I mean, there's not evidence of real change, so I'm not sure what they're waiting for to be changed, but I'm not really surprised.
I think, well, and as a member of the national team, like you just pointed out when we were off camera, like it reflects on you guys, and actually I feel like it reflects on our whole friggin' country. It does. Is the funny part.
Yeah.
But like, is it frustrating for you that the former, you know, management and upper level people have now put you guys in this position where, you know, you were in the middle of like a scandal for a couple years?
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating and emotional and just maddening in general, just because like we are so far away from the problem, but also we are represented by the problem. So I think that puts us in a really unique position. Also just because I feel like females and female athletes are just always expected to be activists and part of your community and all a list of other good things that just people expect. And then the men's players, especially with Hockey Canada, they're just coming into an event with Hockey Canada representing their country, and then they're gone making millions of dollars. So I think it's super frustrating because this is our whole career representing Hockey Canada, and they just do it for one event and then they're gone, and then they harm the whole, I mean, that team specifically, but I'm sure there's been other behavior problems involved in Hockey Canada on the men's side. So it's pretty frustrating when our representation has been tarnished because of people not involved in our side of the sport. So
100%.
Yeah. And
and even like, you know, I would imagine that the women's program is incredibly separate from the men's. You probably have different managers, different coaching staff, different everything.
Yeah,
so
different.
You know, let's call it what it is. It was the men's team that was in the middle of this, and yet, you know, Hockey Canada has now kind of been painted with the same brush, which is frustrating. However, good for them, I guess, for changing management. And I will say too, from an outside perspective, I never looped you guys in. Like when I think about the scandal, never once did I include the women, or never once did I like associate the women's program. And so my hope is that probably most people wouldn't either.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's just the fact that maybe people, like, they had a Hockey Canada hat and they're now, they don't want to wear it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like those kind of things affect us.
Totally.
Even if they weren't fans of women's hockey before, it's still what we represent. So it's definitely takes a toll on us.
Totally.
Yeah.
So come back, y'all. Don't touch don't touch the women's side. It's not their fault. Yeah. And you know what? Different players, different president, different board of directors. Do you think that'll be enough to change the culture?
I mean, I think it'll be enough to change the culture at the most elite level. I don't think I don't think anything will come close to changing the culture at every level. I mean, you have to start with minor hockey, and that's like probably millions of people, right? So I think if hundreds and thousands of coaches and leadership staff involved in Hockey Canada and every grassroots program in the country hop on to this idea that the culture needs to be changed, I think then it could be, but it just seems a very lofty goal. Yeah, it's a big job. I mean, obviously I hope that happens, but it needs to involve way more people than just the CEO of Hockey Canada. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because you're right. It's incredibly like deeply woven into hockey culture. It's you know. Yeah. So, but hey, it's a good start, I guess, right? And sometimes, it is a good start. Though, you know, the big programs are the ones that we look at and that we model ourselves after. So hopefully that'll be the case in this situation. Yeah. But regardless,
the women, you guys stay winning. So everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be great.